beforehand. So we'll do 5 minutes, and then we get on to. Yeah, I'll send all my adversities towards you, so you can deal with them. So that will make you grow in Krishna consciousness, I hope. Can you hear okay?
I can, Prabhu. Can somebody else confirm as well?
Yeah. Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. It's perfect.
Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Rama, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Krishna, 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 Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Okay. Now let's move on to, I have to plug in the computer. It's an old computer. If I don't plug it in soon, it's gonna go belly up. So we can start early in life. Again, if the audio is not clear enough or loud enough, I can put the headphones on. Headphones are really...
The audio is a little bit faint, Prabhu.
Is it a bit faint?
Yes, please.
Okay. Is it better now?
It's way better. Thank you.
Okay,
Prabhu.
very good. So I was born in Argentina. At an early age, let's say I was about 9 years old, I was already dissatisfied with the future of what my life was projecting to be, like someone else, like have a job, have a family, have a house, have a car, and die. So I wasn't too happy with the idea of having to wait that long for a program that ended somewhat abruptly with death. So I decided to accelerate things. So at age 9, I gave myself 1 year to research about the meaning of life. And if I didn't find out what the meaning of life was, or if I wasn't satisfied about the meaning of life, I was gonna do myself up. I was gonna kill myself. So for a whole year, I was reading books and I was talking to people, and I used to hang out with adults because children kind of bore me, children my age for sure. And no matter who I talked to, they had no purpose in life. They just, live, enjoy, and, be with your kid and kin that for some reason, some people that are blood related or you choose to be in your life are more important than others. These people are first class, these people are second class, these people are smart, these people are not. So, they distinguish among themselves based on basically the body or the mind and so on. So I wasn't convinced. So after a year, when I was 10, I decided to start thinking about how am I going to kill myself, because I didn't want to be, I don't want to be too painful or to make too big of a splash. However, as I was starting to think about this, I heard a voice, and it wasn't the mind, it wasn't someone there, it was the super soul. I heard very clearly a very deep voice saying, I have something for you, but you're not mature enough to understand it or implement it yet. So please be patient and I will deliver it. So it was so surprising, such a deep experience, that I decided, okay, I guess I will have to wait. And fast forward, I had a full life. I was in my 20s by now. And I was in Uruguay, a South American country. I was managing a small newspaper, a neighborhood newspaper, and writing and meeting with a lot of bohemian people and writers and actors and musicians and painters and so on. And we were actually smoking ganja at the time. And as I was in their midst, maybe half a dozen people or so, I had an epiphany that there was a supreme being. It was so clear and so strong that everything else moved aside. I lost interest in any other subject. And I thought it was a collective experience, that was not just me, but all the people with me, all my friends also experienced the same thing. So I was trying to connect with them, and they had no idea what I was talking about. I said, how could I miss it for so many years? There is a God. It's so obvious that there is intelligence, there is order, there is everything that we need. The sun is at the proper distance from the earth, so we can get warmth and light. If it was any closer, we will fry. And if it was any further away, we'll freeze to death. So that's not coincidence. There is, in an orange, there are seeds, and in the seeds there are potential trees, and they will produce more oranges, and one can nurture oneself. I was actually, having this childlike discovery. And because nobody could relate to what I was talking about, I decided to move out. To move out meaning to move out of the society in general. So I found out from a friend that there was an abandoned hippie village in northeast Brazil, right by the Atlantic Ocean, and that there was nobody there, and it was quite far. So I sold a gold bracelet that I had since I was a child. I bought a ticket from Montevideo, the capital of Uruguay, to Rio de Janeiro, and then hitchhiked and took buses, and I went up north for about 48 hours. And I arrived in the capital city of Salvador, of the state of Bahia, and then I took a local bus for about an hour to a fisherman's village, and then I walked right into the jungle, and for a few miles, and I found this abandoned place that had a couple of huts, very small huts, the size of a Volkswagen bus or even smaller, that they had straw walls, straw roof, and a hammock in the middle, and a cloth to serve as a door. And there was a river, and the water was drinking water. There was a ceramic vase where I would just dive and take the cold water from the center of the river. There was a little lake in the back, the size of an Olympic pool, where I would sit, and it will be up to my neck, and little fish will come and clean me up every morning. And there was a forest, and there was coconut grove, and the ocean on the other side. And the temperature was about 78 or 80 degrees every day, and it will rain like a tropical mist at 3 in the morning for 15 minutes every day. And I had no utensils, I had no fire. The only thing I had was a Swiss pocket knife, and a coconut will fall every couple of days, and I will cut it open and drink the water from the dog. And otherwise I will drink water from a river. And that was my diet. I didn't eat anything solid. And I stayed there for about 6 months, by myself, pretty much all the time. Once in a while, somebody may hear in town and there was some guy with long hair and a beard living in like a yogi, and they will come and to check me out, like, you know, like National Geographic type excursion to see, you know, this rarity living in the jungle. But otherwise I didn't see anybody. And eventually another person showed up with a similar experience to mine. He ended up in the same place. So we were basically reading the Old Testament, mostly Psalms, and reading books about healing naturally. And I had a saxophone I was playing, and he had a guitar, and he made flutes out of bamboo. So for the last maybe month or two, we spent the time together. But because I thought it was the ganja that opened my mind to the idea of God, I was still smoking. But now that there were two people, the provisions weren't lasting as long. So we decided one of us will go to town to get some more ganja. And he made some flutes. I put them in a bag, and I went to town. So I went to the fisherman's village. I walked for a while, and then I went to this. I took a bus for about an hour, and I sat, and there was a artisan's market where I sold all the flutes. I was playing one, and I sold them. And then I bought some ganja, and I decided, well, maybe I should call my parents, because they haven't heard from me in many, many months, and they probably would like to know if I'm alive. So I had to go to a particular building. Just going back a little bit, I had a friend that I met at the fisherman's village, and she had pictures on the wall, and they were actually cut from one of Prabhupada's books. So there was the changing bodies and the yogi and so on. And she had a book, ISKCON. So I opened the book, one day. I don't know how I ended up there, probably right before I went to town or sometime. And it was interesting. It was in Sanskrit and with a translation into Portuguese. And I started reading. I said, wow, this is a lot more direct and deeper than the Old Testament. I'd like to share it with my friend. So I asked her, can I take this book back to my hut, back to the jungle? And she said, no, this book doesn't leave the house. I said, well, I'm not going anywhere. I live there and I've been there for months. Just let me read it. She said, no, that book doesn't, you can take any other books, but that book doesn't leave the house. Well, it took me about half an hour to convince her to let me go with the book. And finally she conceded. So I left, and it took about, I don't know, maybe 40 minutes to get from a fisherman's village to the little hut. And I met my friend. I said, you won't believe what I found. This is an amazing book. And I started reading the first verse of the Upanishad. And also I recognized Prabhupada's picture in the back. I had seen a popular magazine like People magazine or something like that in the past, where there was a picture of Prabhupada. And even though that was before my epiphany, and I didn't really believe in saintly people or mysticism. I didn't really know what was going on. When I saw the picture of Prabhupada, I thought, oh, this person can see what others can't. And I thought maybe it's a technique, because Prabhupada was like this, looking down with that regal expression of his. So I actually started doing that. I was walking around going like this, see if you could see something, but I couldn't see literally anything. And I remember that soon after I read the first verse to my friend, I heard the rustling of leaves, and we saw that there was the girl that actually lent me the book. And she said, I'm sorry, but I can't part from that book even for a day. So she just took it back. So that was it. I only had exposure to one verse of this Sri Upanishad. So as I was in town looking for the building where I could make an overseas phone call, and I'm sure many of you, especially Indians, can relate to not being able to make a phone call overseas from your own home. You had to go to a particular building to do that in town. So as I walked in, I saw this the woman about my age on a wheelchair. And at the time, I was reading a book about healing, and that a doctor from Japan, some healer, said that everybody has the innate power to heal others. So by prayer, by fasting, by mantra, just put your hands on someone and say certain things and pray to God, and you can heal different things. So as my friend was opening a coconut, he cut himself in the hand. I said, wait, let me try this technique, see if it works. So I put my hands on top of his hands, and because it was bleeding, and I said the right mantras and prayer and so on, and I could see that the wound closed up right away, stopped bleeding. I said, oh wow, this is great. So I was convinced of the efficacy. And when I saw this woman on a wheelchair, I thought, well, this is a more serious case. I would like to try it on her. So I approached her. She looked different. She wasn't dressed in a sari or anything like that, but she she looked different. She had this effulgence about her. So I said, I'm sorry, you don't know me. I don't know you. I can see that this is a serious case, but I have some God-given power to heal, and I would like to apply it on you. I'm not going to touch you. I'm not going to charge you. It's not going to hurt. We can only try and hope for the best. And she said, and I remember as if it was today, well, I've never walked. I was born this way. And half my body is paralyzed from the waist down. However, because people don't see me, the person, they only see my body. They take pity on me, and they take me everywhere I want to go. So I've been everywhere. Another thing is that the body gives you pleasure and pain, but mostly pain. So half of my body doesn't feel any pain. So I think I do have a serious advantage over you and other able-bodied people. Another thing, I got this body because I must have done something pretty bad in my previous life, and now I'm paying for it. This is called karma, and I believe it. And I'm not doing it begrudgingly. I think I deserve it. Can't recall the incident, but I'm sure God is just. And finally, if I need any help, it will be of a spiritual kind, not material, because we all have to grow old and get sick and die. So you have no advantage over me. But I thank you. I was blown away. I never heard anything like that. She said, you're not the body. And I was convinced. I said, this is it. I've been looking for the absolute truth all my life. And I spoke those terms. And I finally found it. And you have it. So you have to tell me everything you know. I'm going to be with you until I squeeze you dry, because obviously you know a lot more than I do. She said, okay. I said, well, I have to make a phone call to my parents. Please don't go away. This is the most important meeting of my life. She said, no, I'll be waiting for you. So I called my parents. I said, I'm alive. I'm fine. I'm living, I'm eating fine, whatever. Whatever you have to tell your parents to make them happy that you're having 3 meals a day and all that stuff, even though I was just having water and coconut water. And then I went back and I said, okay, what's next? She said, well, why don't you call a taxi and we'll go to a restaurant. So to me, those words, taxi, restaurant, they were things of the past. I lived in the jungle by myself, in a completely yogi-like life. But I did. So we got it in, put the wheelchair in, and went to a macrobiotic restaurant. The devotees didn't have a restaurant in that town. And I said, so tell me more. Tell me more. So she started speaking, and I said, and where did you get this knowledge from? And she said, the Hare Krishnas. And to me, the Hare Krishnas, I didn't have any particular ring. I've seen them before at a distance, a couple times. And the only thing I knew was the blurb that came underneath the picture of Prabhupada that I saw in that popular magazine. And it said, the Hare Krishna's diet, entire diet, consists of lettuce and walnuts. That's all they eat. And George Harrison pays all their bills. So that's all I knew about the Hare Krishnas. And I told her that, and she laughed. She said, no, not quite like that. And I said, well, okay, so what do we do now? She said, well, there is a temple in town, and I think you're already living like a monk, more than that, actually. So maybe you should live with the monks. Maybe you should become a monk yourself. Okay, so I said, what do the monks do? And she told me, and I said, so what do the monks avoid? And she said, there's no meat, fish, or eggs in their diet. I said, oh, I'm fine. I have only coconut water and water, so I'm good. And no illicit sex. I said, oh, I'm celibate by choice. And no gambling, because it's a waste of time. I said, oh yeah, I agree. And no intoxication. I said, wait, that doesn't include ganja, right? Because that's how I found God. She said, oh no, it includes everything, even tea and coffee. It's not necessary. So how do you communicate with God? She said, oh, he has an 800 number. And she told me the Maha Mantra. That's very interesting. So I would like to learn. I mean, obviously, you know a lot more. So for the next few days, because she told me they have an open house on Sunday, and it was maybe middle of the week, Wednesday or so. Maybe for the next few days, we should spend the time together constantly, and you can teach me everything you know. I don't want to go not knowing anything. She said, okay. And I said, I live in the jungle. I'm not going to push your wheelchairs through the jungle. So where do you live? She said, I live in an island across the bay with some friends. And it's a big place, so you can definitely come and stay. All right. So we took a boat and went to the island and went to the house, and we talked incessantly. And she showed me the Bhagavatam, the second canto, first canto, Harinam Chadar, the beat, the mantra. But I said, when I asked her about intoxication, I said, what do I do with all this big stash that I just got? And she said, we'll smoke it together. Because she wasn't a strict practitioner, to say the least. But she was still preaching. She was still telling people about Krishna, even though she wasn't following the principles and so on. And matter of fact, a week before I met her, she met a girl, and she made her a devotee too, and she's still a devotee 40 years later. So she had the power. It didn't matter, you know, what her status was. So after a few days, it was Sunday, so we smoked, and I left for the temple. There was a preaching center in town, so I had to take a boat and a bus and then walk. And when I arrived in the temple, I was very clean. I bathe every day, but I looked like, you know, Jesus, you know, long hair and a beard, you know, dressed completely in white. So when I got to the temple, devotee ushered me in, and this temple president sat down with me and we talked, and he said, oh, you saw the Harinam party? No. You read a book? No. What is it? How did you come in contact with us? I said, well, somebody told me, and I'm here. And what are you here for? I said, to become a pure devotee. And there were other people in the room, and they all went, whoa, like they forgot that they were supposed to do the same thing. We are all here to become pure devotees. So, but because it was too easy, that I was too easy of a customer, they had a hard time believing me that I was sincere. They thought I was there to pick up girls or to steal shoes or something. So I said, I'm ready to surrender. I'm here to become one of you, even though I don't know anything. So they let me stay. They let me stay, but not in the ashram. They put me in a reception room in a chair, and they locked both doors, inside and the outside, just so I didn't have any movement. And they said they will be back early in the morning for me to take a shower. They will give me a towel. They didn't tell me how early. They came at 3:30 in the morning after me sleeping pretty poorly on a chair. And I took a shower and, kirtan and so on. Now, one thing that this girl told me, I should say her name. She was initiated. Her name was Rukmini. I owe her my life. She's my Sarvatma Pradakshina Guru. And she told me that the prasadam was amazing. The food, the godly food, the remnants of God himself. So I wasn't very picky. Obviously, I've been just drinking coconut water and water for many months. And I went on a Sunday. So when I sat down to the Sunday feast, they gave me a thali with about 6 different dishes and a small little bread. So I tried the bread. It was great. And I ate all the other different dishes. And they were probably the worst thing I've ever had in my life. Every single dish was horrible. And I was thinking, she told me that the food is fantastic. What happened here? And then I thought about it. Right before I met Rukmini, I was planning a 40-day fast because I heard that Jesus and Buddha and Mohammed, they all did a 40-day fast for the purpose of enlightenment, because austerity brings spiritual knowledge. So I was preparing myself, even though I wasn't consuming anything, to go on a complete fast. And then I thought, wait, fasting for 40 days cannot compare to eating this horrible stuff for the rest of my life. These Hare Krishnas are geniuses. They are probably totally enlightened by practicing this type of austerity, eating horrible stuff. What I didn't know is that the cook was sick, and they sent some poor devotees, never been to the kitchen before, to cook the Sunday feast as the last resort. So what I ate was actually truly horrible. It was disgusting stuff. But things changed. And then a couple of days later, when they figured out that I was sincere, they said, okay, it's time for us to send you to a real temple, because this was a little center just with a couple of people. So they said, we're leaving tonight at 9 p.m. Or 8 p.m. on a bus going to Recife, another city or different state, the capital of another state, 12 hours north. So before we did that, Bhakta and I went back to the jungle to pick up my stuff and to tell my friend, I found the absolute truth. You have to come with us. But there was a note from him saying that he found out that his only sister was getting married, so he was gonna fly there and then come back. I said, well, whatever, whenever you come back, I'm in the Hare Krishna ashram and you have to come. This is it, the end of the search. So we went, this Bhakta and I was 3 days in the center. We were traveling on the bus to Recife for 12 hours in the evening. So he said, how do you like the chanting? I said, oh, it's okay, it's nice. You mean the music stuff? He said, no, the meditation, the japa. What's that? Yeah, nobody told you about chanting japa? Mm-mm. Nobody has even mentioned that I was supposed to be chanting, and nobody gave me japa mala. So he gave me his own, 104 beads, by the way, neem, not even tulsi. And I chanted, I think it took me about 20 minutes per round. And after 3 rounds, it was like 10 o'clock. So I was very sleepy, so I went to sleep. And the next day I was in Recife, where there was a temple with 40 devotees. Some of them Prabhupada disciples. Beautiful place. Used to be the house of the governor there. and there were trees, fruit trees lining up the place. The place was huge, and there were 2 jackfruit trees, 2 cinnamon trees, 2 breadfruit trees, elephant cashews, 40 mango trees, sitafal, coconuts, the works. I mean, everything you wanted, it was there. It was beautiful. It was a tropical paradise, and that's where I spent my bhakta days. And after 3 days, I learned how to play the mridanga. Of course, I still play the mridanga like a 3-day-old bhakta. I haven't learned any more than that. And I was leading the kirtans after a few days. They didn't let me give class. They were very strict about, if you're not a Brahmin, you cannot give class. So it took a long time for me to give a class, even though I could see that the classes weren't very stimulating. The devotees weren't very studious or entertaining. People slept during class like they do in most centers. And I asked the first day that I came into Recife, I said, what's the fastest way to make spiritual advancement? And they said, well, it's Sankirtan, which means to spread the holy name, to chant the holy name or to spread it, to give it to others. And also can translate as book distribution. But chanting is most important, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So, okay, I'm ready. So they asked me, can you follow a melody on a keyboard? And I said, probably. And do you know the mantra? I said, yeah, I just learned it. Okay. So they tied up a Harinam Chalar to the ends of a harmonium, pretty heavy one. They put it on my shoulders, and they told me to take a local bus to downtown and to walk around for 6 hours chanting the Hare Krishna mantra by myself, loud. And I said, I don't know any melodies. And they say, well, do you know Yellow Submarine by the Beatles? I say, yeah, I do. All right. So sing Yellow Submarine to the Hare Krishna mantra. So that's what I did. That was my first day as a bhakta, officially chanting Yellow Submarine to the Hare Krishna mantra for hours with a very heavy harmonium hanging from my shoulders. And then they sent me out on book distribution full time. And they named me the temple commander. Well, I had trouble being temple commander because I didn't know what devotional service was. And I didn't know Vaishnava etiquette. And I didn't know how to engage anybody and what they had to do. And I also had to deal with the pujari and see what he needed, all the different things that he needed during the week. Because I wasn't a Brahmin, he wouldn't talk to me. And then because they dressed me as a brahmachari, the head cook, who was a woman, wouldn't talk to me either. So I couldn't find out what the kitchen needed either. So it was a difficult job that fortunately ended after a couple months. But that was how I came to Krishna consciousness. And 3 months after I was in Recife, Rukmini came to visit. And she, of course, I had the zealous nature of a new bhakta. So I started preaching heavily to her. How can you leave the association of devotees? How can you not follow the principles? This is the most important thing in your life. And she was folding her hands and lowering her head. And I'm sure she was smiling, not much on the outside, but very much on the inside, thinking, I'm very proud of you, kid. I made you what you are. So I'm very happy you're preaching to me now. And that was it. That was the beginning. So there you have it. I think it's an unusual story.
It's a fascinating story, Prabhu. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, what shall we talk about? Should we ask for questions first.
Yes, I think that would be great, and then our conversation can follow.
Okay.
Questions. I can
It
go.
could be of any nature. The questions could be of any nature, anecdotal or philosophical or personal, which I like. I used to give, instead of giving seminars in some of the places in Europe where I used to go every summer and different festivals, I will hold questions and answers and for the devotees. And I would say, this is questions and answers, things that you want to ask your spouse, things that you want to ask your guru, things that you want to ask your temple president. You can ask away. I have no vested interest, so I will answer from the core of my heart the best I can, and it's just my opinion. So take it as you want.
So I'll start with I don't know. In my mind, it's a touchy topic. Have you, in your experience, ever, disagreed with somebody in an authoritative figure? So it could be an advanced devotee, it could be an initiating guru, it could be temple president, I don't know. Or rather, if we feel in our heart that we want to disagree with someone, we feel the urge to say that, you know what, I really don't agree with you, or I don't understand what you're saying, or what you're saying is completely wrong, or whatever it is, however you want to paraphrase that. How do we go about it? Not necessarily the going about of the disagreement part, or how do we get back into the Vaishnava etiquette part? First of all, what is it, or how does it apply in this situation, and how do we do this?
The etiquette is you serve the devotees. So whether you agree or disagree, service is there. Now, if the devotee you're trying to serve is obviously disturbed by you, then you basically walk away, avoid them, and then do whatever you can. You asked me if I ever disagree with the devotee more advanced than me. Oh yeah, mostly. That has been my history, to disagree with everybody about everything. So I'm very familiar with that feeling in particular. I tell you a little story. There was one day that I was in Ukraine, and there was a festival, big festival. So we had Guru Puja. I led Guru Puja from a harmonium, which is a forbidden thing for some reason. It's like, you're a demon if you play the harmonium during Guru Puja. Well, I did play the harmonium during Guru Puja, and even worse, I played chords, like jazz chords and classical chords and so on. So I must tell you this: it was ecstatic. It was ecstatic. There were 5,000 devotees jumping and dancing and screaming to the top of the lungs. It was totally ecstatic. So as I leave the tent, the big pandal, to go back to my room, a sannyasi, I won't mention a name, came running. We didn't know each other. I mean, we knew each other, but we didn't really know each other. Came running and just jumped in front of me. And he said, "Prabhupada never played chords." And without a moment's delay, I said, "Prabhupada never drove a car. What's your point? We shouldn't drive cars?" And he was taken aback. Obviously, Krishna gave me the argument. I'm not that smart. And he was shocked. He didn't know what to say. And I said, Prabhupada never did a lot of things. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do them. It's simply a question of taste. It's rasa. It's not tattva. So when you have a disagreement with someone, and someone is in a higher position, try to be humble. Try to say, I admire you. I think you're far more advanced than I am, and I'm sure you have the best of intentions. but I find that my conclusion is different, and this is why. And you try to discuss like civilized beings. Now, if the person is too sanguine or heated up and hot-headed, stubborn, whatever the problem may be, or attached to authoritarian, attached to position, then what can you do? I think it was Chanakya Pandit who said, you convince a Sudra with a stick, a Vaishya with a bribe, a Kshatriya with praise, and a Brahman with the truth. So if you can convince that person with the truth, it's probably not a Brahman, even though it may be dressed as one. And when Prabhupada was asked, you know, how do we distribute books? Prabhupada, how would you sell books? And Prabhupada said, you stop a person, you tell them, you're so well-mannered, educated, intelligent, take this book and give me your wallet. You know, basically that was the summary. Like you don't waste time trying to say this is going to change your life and make it better, because they have no ears for that kind of talk. So when you're talking to someone and the person is not reasonable, the best thing is to offer your respects from a distance, just like Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, I give all respects to Kapila the atheist and Patanjali and all, what's the name? Karma Mimamsa, Jaimini Kavi, all these impersonal philosophers and so on. I give my obeisances from a distance. Don't come close. So you have to select your association. Not everybody looks like it's on the same path, but they're at a different point on the path that you may not want to be there. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, so many times, he wrote down and he said so many times, the best way to make spiritual advancement is to avoid bad association. So someone who may have the looks or the cloth or the position of someone that is more advanced than you or more influenced may not be as advanced as they think they are. That's what they say. The best profit in any business is to buy a person for what they are worth and sell them for what they think they're worth. There is no more profit than that. So you have to catalog, you have to make a difference. Yes, this person wants my welfare, is trying to help me, and you should take the humble position if you can. Yes, this person wants me to make spiritual advancement. Like when you find a conflict with someone, you should think of that person as that person is holding your ticket back to Godhead. The ticket with your name is in that person's hand. It depends how you handle that. You get your ticket. So obviously, I'm very good at theory, not very good at praxis, but that's my advice, that you don't have to agree with everybody. You don't have to, but you have to be respectful and humble, because that is in your benefit, in your favor. And if that person avoids, cannot be civilized, then you take a step back and keep a distance, because it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy. You may become an offender, or you may become an enabler, which is just as bad.
Thank you. All right, I'll open it for other questions or comments from other folks. Does anybody have any other questions or comments?
I had a question. Do you have any realizations from getting the COVID, and any that you could share?
It's pretty bad. Don't get it if you can. Well, there is an advantage. You get immunity, I guess, at least for that particular strain. Is a time that you become a little more aware that you're really not the body by force. Krishna makes you realize, no, I couldn't possibly be this body. This body is just a source of misery, and there is no enjoyment to be had from it. And there is the presence, virtual presence, and sometimes more than virtual, of your own mortality, that you actually have to leave this body behind. So there are a few advantages. I was in a worse situation. I had shingles, and it was incredibly painful and relentless. There was no cessation to the pain. And I was trying to understand, what's Krishna's message? What is Krishna telling me? What am I supposed to learn from this? And there are two lessons that I think they were quite clear towards the end of it. One, that you don't wish even your enemies with pain, because it's insufferable. It's not something you cannot be in the right state of mind if you wish ill that type of suffering unto others. You become more empathetic towards other people. And also that I didn't think that my threshold for pain was very high, and Krishna showed me, it wasn't very high. So he raised it, my threshold for pain, quite a bit. So perhaps this was a preview of coming attractions, that at the time of death, when everything goes haywire and you cannot breathe and you're confused and you're in tremendous pain, you don't become bewildered by these different changes. You become dhira, you become sober. You understand, okay, this is my time to go. And so I think the things that you can learn from having a disease that can kill you are that you don't wish it upon anybody else, and you are actually preparing yourself for death. It's like a dress rehearsal. I don't think I have any other realizations about this. Fortunately, we are a lot better now than we were before. It was pretty scandalous. We had to, after a few days, we had to order oxygen to be delivered at home. Both my wife and I were on oxygen almost permanently because it was very hard to breathe, and we were coughing all the time, chills, fever, tremendous weakness, no appetite. We both forced ourselves to have half a bowl of soup every day for 2 weeks. We both lost 15 pounds. Some people lose the sense of smell and sense of taste. We didn't, but we didn't have any appetite. And it's a month later after catching COVID now, and I've been out of my house twice. So I'm not so adventurous. I think and there is a possibility of a relapse. So you have to, it's like you think you're okay, but you may fall again into the same cycle. So it's better to take it slowly. Sometimes it's a better remedy. Rest and relaxation is a better remedy. Krishna even says in the Gita that about even a yogi is a moderate person. It's not an extremist. Doesn't eat too much, too little, doesn't sleep too much, too little, and has a certain amount of recreation. And this is necessary. You may become an extremist and torture your body, but you're not going to please Krishna by that. Or you may try to rush and go off too early before you're completely heal. It's like, yes, if you come off an operation and you have stitches, you can't just, and you were an athlete, you can't start training like before. You have to wait until it heals, even though you may feel fine, but the stitches may come off. You may start bleeding again. So I'm taking it slowly as it is, even though I feel a lot better. Thank you for asking.
Other questions, comments? Yes, Kirsten, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for sharing your story. I do have a question about how did you know this was the path for you? And with that, when you were studying and learning, if you had any doubts or if you felt like this is the path for you, or if there's more truth out there, like just how do you come to that conclusion to continue on your journey?
Thank you. That's a great question. Remember, I said that I heard a voice. The super soul talked to me and said, "Do not kill yourself. I have something for you." When I met this woman, Rukmini, and she said, "You're not the body," I recognized, oh, this is what that voice was telling me, to wait for this. This is the answer to my questions, to all my questions. You're not the body, you're a spiritual soul. You're part and parcel of God. So when I heard that, it was a confirmation. It was like hearing the same voice, even though it was in the voice of a young woman. Still, I said, okay, this is how God is talking to me now. Then he chose to speak to me through Paramatma, through the super soul within the heart. Now he chose to speak through her. So the path, I never had any doubts. Some people are plagued by doubts. There may be this, there may be that. I was exposed to so many things. You see, I joined when I was 24. 2 weeks after I joined, on my birthday, who happened to be on Radhastami, I thought the devotees are so nice. They cook a huge feast just for me. No, it was Radhastami. I just happened to have the birthday on that day, and it was just liberating because I had exposure to philosophy. I mean, I started reading when I was very young. I started writing. I travel extensively. I did so many things. I had so much experience in so many ways, and I only heard about impersonalism a couple days. I think it was the same day that I met this woman, that somebody said, well, nothing is more than everything because everything fits within nothing. I mean, some kind of nonsense like that. I said, come on, sober up, go take a nap, and when you wake up, you won't remember any of this nonsense. So I wasn't very attracted. I read philosophy. I read about so many different things. Yeah, everything looked good on paper, but actually to apply it to my life, I never had any doubts. And chanting kirtan, chanting japa, reading the scriptures, associating with devotees, traveling. I traveled throughout the world many times over. I met so many devotees, so many people. I distributed so many books. I was a brahmachari for 17 years, and I opened centers and I helped make devotees. I was, the other day I was cooking khichdi for the devotees, and they said, well, how come you don't eat it? Well, for the last 20 years, we had a cafe at the university. So I calculated that I made about 25,000 gallons of khichdi, just myself. So I cannot eat khichdi anymore. I'm done. After making 25,000 gallons, I'm done with that. So I don't have that type of satiation with Krishna consciousness. It gets better and better, but you just have to persist. We come from different backgrounds at different speeds with different type of sukriti, and you may need to complete a few more essays or a few more papers than someone else that is more advanced. They already passed those grades. But this is all to make you strong. You see, we all have to be very, very strong to a same level. That's when you come to the same equal level that you can actually go back to Godhead, when you don't have any more material desires, when you just want Krishna. So we may have certain obstacles and impediments. We have how do you call ballast, stuff that we are carrying on our tool belt, bags of sand and cement that are slowing us down, and you have to cut them loose. You have to let them go, but it takes time, takes some understanding how to get rid of that. These are things that we've been accumulating and collecting for thousands and thousands of lifetimes. It's not like a one thing. That's why when people ask, how do you know they are previous lives if you cannot remember them? Well, you certain things you do remember, the sensations that you have from previous lives. But it's Krishna that is very merciful, that doesn't let us remember our previous lives. So we don't have to deal with so many mental problems. Because imagine, we have this lifetime, and we are already completely crazy with all the traumas and all the bad habits and all the things that we have from just this one little lifetime. So imagine if at the time of death, when you're supposed to become completely detached from all of that and think of Krishna, if you, instead of having one lifetime to deal with all the problems and tribulations and memories and traumas and so on, you remember 10,000 different lifetimes with all the problems that came with each one of them. You will never leave this world. You will be stuck here. You will be back to the washing cycle many times over. So this is Krishna's mercy. So although I have so many attachments and so many bad habits and so many things, I know what the solution is. I know it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to see. And even people who don't have any degree of spiritual advancement, when they see you, when you start practicing Krishna consciousness, right at that cusp, and they see you a year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, they can see that you're a different person, that you have made so much progress and on the spiritual path. They have to be convinced. So that should be enough to convince you. Just like when you see, when you have a child, I was giving the example the last time I talked to most of you, that we have a child and 3 months later, you don't see the changes in the child. But anybody who comes to the house can see, oh, wow, he has grown up quite a bit. Yeah, but you can't see that, but they can. So you may not see, you think, oh, things are getting worse. I started practicing Krishna consciousness. I had some material desires. It's been years and I'm worse off now than I was when I started. No, you're actually cleaning the house. And the more you clean, the more messy it gets. But you're getting rid of stuff. The garbage truck comes every day and takes your stuff and just throws it out. You don't see that because the garage is still full of trash. But you're getting rid of a lot of stuff. Others can see it. You may not be able to see it. So just based on that, just based on the fact that where I was before and where I am now, even though it's not a long distance, I can see this process works. And if it works, why give it up? Ain't broke, don't fix it, right? I don't know if anybody else is convinced, but I'm convinced about Krishna consciousness. So if you are, good for you. And if you aren't, give it time. Krishna is very charming. The name Krishna means irresistible. He will get to you. One way or another, one day or another, he will get to you and you will be permanently attracted, and that will make everything else vanish. Like your whole life, all the stuff that you've been so fascinated by, it's like all of a sudden you wake up. Oh, it was a dream. No matter how vivid, no matter how intense, no matter how much adrenaline you pumped during that time, it was a dream. You just woke up, and this is your real life. So to me, I've been dreaming all my life, and just hope for the day that I fully wake up and there is no more struggle. And the struggle is good, because the struggle makes you strong. If you go to the gym and you don't push heavier and heavier objects, you build no muscle. So if Krishna makes it so you have no trouble in your life, you will make very little progress. He's making sure that you're flexing your spiritual muscles. And when you're praying, well, how can I say this? You're asking for trouble to free you from material consciousness. This is what prayer is. Please, Krishna, please, Radharani, remove this veil of illusion that is covering me. And what does that mean? It hurts. It may bother you, but it's the illusion that goes away. And when it goes away, it's like waking up from a dream within a dream within a dream. And every time you wake up, you're closer to being fully awake. I don't think other processes offer this kind of executive tour. You know, they give you the slow boat to China, and this one is the Concorde. You know, you're taking a jet fighter back home, back to Godhead. And you may have to just get rid of a lot of stuff all of a sudden, but it works. You go back to Godhead and your problems are over. As long as you're in the material body, the problems will be there. Even the acharyas, even the avatars, everybody got trouble in the material world. It's not a nice place. This is a sandbox full of bullies. You can't get your game properly. You're going to be bothered by everybody. But you become stronger internally. That's why we have to turn inward, start going in. Is this a routine that you develop and you think it's a mechanic, you know, punch the right button? This is your life. It's not like sign up on the dotted line and you become a devotee. No, you won't. You're a devotee today, you're not a devotee tomorrow. Don't take it for granted. You may be ecstatic today, you may be miserable tomorrow. Just hope for a better day after. You just, no matter what. There's a phrase, there's a Madhavendra Puri. He was a god brother of Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master. He said that people may call me fools. They think I'm focused on the wrong thing. Others think I'm too proud. Others think this or that. People consider me a total fool. And they may be right. But this doesn't budge my determination from serving the lotus feet of Govinda. Even though I may not be able to do it, still my determination is there. So yes, we are not qualified. We are not qualified as servants. We are pretty bad. We are erratic. And we have so many distractions, but we should do it because that's who you are. You're nothing else. You're a servant, a loving servant of God. And you know what Krishna derives the most enjoyment of? Serving his devotees. That is his kick. So when you serve Krishna, guess what? Krishna's thinking of serving you. This is love. When you actually want to give someone else, regardless of what they think of you, what they do to you, this is real love. So when you feel like that towards Krishna, then you have achieved something. And before that, fasten your seatbelt, girl. You're going to struggle. But it's good. You're making advancement. You're moving. You may not see it, but you're moving. It's not like you're sitting in a car wash. You know, the car is stopped, and you see the thing moving back and forth, and you think you're moving, but you're not moving. No. This is actually, you're actually moving. The material world is static. It stays here and then gets destroyed and then gets recycled. You don't want to be part of that. Just have a little confidence that even if everything goes wrong and everybody abandons you, Krishna won't abandon you. Krishna never left you. Even when you came to the material world, Krishna followed you and sat right within your heart as a super soul. And no matter what you do, no matter how crazy you get, how insulting, nasty, Krishna won't go away. What kind of friend do you have that is like that? My friends, as soon as you tell them something that they don't like, you know, they just delete me from the contacts. That's it. It's over for you. But Krishna will never delete you from a contact list. Never. He will love you more every moment, and as long as you can handle that. As Prabhupada said, if you think of yourself, if you think of Krishna 24 hours a day, Krishna will think of you 26 hours a day. And if you think of yourself, Krishna will think of himself. So it's a fair deal. You just have to trust that, you know, he got the right thing. He got the right formula. Now you just have to get to it, do it right. And be in the association of devotees, good devotees. There's some devotees that are a little off, you know, like expired milk. And some are like nectar. So hang on with the nectar ones and give yourself a little distance from those who are a little too eccentric, or they don't contribute to your spiritual advancement. But as far as your question, how do you know? Oh, you know. How do you know who your father is? Prabhupada used this example. Well, DNA, yeah, maybe. But basically you ask your mom. Now, if your mom doesn't know, you're in trouble. But you should ask your mom, and if your mom is honest, she will tell you, this guy is your father. Well, I knew because he looked like you. Yeah, but there are other people look like you too. No, so how do you know? Ask the devotees. Ask those who you trust. And they know. They know better. See what the process does. Measure the consequences of practicing Krishna consciousness. It works. It may not, you may think, oh, it doesn't work on me. No, but it works on this other person, and it works on this other person. So maybe I'm applying it wrongly. So have confidence that one day it will happen to you too. Yeah, like when you're sick, you can't remember when you were healthy, how you felt. And when you were healthy, you can't even remember how you felt when you were sick. So when you become Krishna conscious, you can't even remember what material life looks like. That was a little extended answer. I'm sorry, I went a little off there, but hopefully it will help. It helps me.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Okay. Prabhu, maybe I can ask one question that was asked of me in similar lines. It kind of like plays into what you just mentioned. This was what, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, somebody asked me, okay, so how do we know we're going to go back to Godhead? It's not necessarily, maybe the practices that we are practicing are naturally making us progress as better people. It's helping us becoming calmer or controlling our mind or our anger or our desires and so on. And it's great. And so it's a given that you're certainly progressing in those lines. But how is it that how can we say for certainty that somebody who has been practicing, when they leave their body, they actually go back to God and not really reappearing as simply a better person?
I don't know. I have no idea. How do you know? You have to ask Krishna. I don't have the answer. I hope you go. And if you have to come back, and because your Krishna consciousness is not complete, and you have to Srimatam Suchinam Gehe, at least you get some money, and at least you get an education. You get a good start, so you don't have to struggle. This is a question from Arjuna to Krishna. What happened to an incomplete yogi? What happens to them in the next life? And Krishna says, they'll be taken care of. They won't have to struggle. They won't have to look for how do I make a living? How do I get to eat? Like animals. Most animals are always looking for something to eat, and fear that someone may attack them. So humans that are in that condition is pretty deplorable. So Krishna will take care of that part. So you can develop your, whatever you accumulated spiritually, it will be there for you. That account is not touched. That account just stays away. It stays and it only increases. That won't be taken away from you. So you can see that devotees, they come from, there's 3 types of sukriti. There is karma, ummukhi sukriti, jnana, ummukhi sukriti, and bhakti, ummukhi sukriti. From karma, ummukhi sukriti is the piety, like planting trees and digging wells and so on, opening orphanages, hospitals. This will give you material benefits, but that's it. That is all you get. And then there is jnana, ummukhi sukriti, which is, it will give you, when you study the scriptures and you do a lot of stuff like that, then it brings you mukti. But they're temporary, both of them. Liberation is temporary. And then there is bhakti, ummukhi sukriti, which is bhakti, which is given either by a devotee or by a drop of mercy from the Lord himself. And a devotee may not be conscious of, devotee may feel, I think I feel generous. I'm gonna go out to the laundromat and talk to the attendant and just give him bhakti. And the attendant is, the last thing he expects, he doesn't even know he's getting bhakti. Someone gets bhakti like that. It's just the mercy of the devotees. Devotees are more merciful than the Lord, because Krishna may not care about someone because he's unbiased. He's equal to everyone. He has an inclination towards devotees, obviously, but he's equal towards everyone. Whereas devotees are not like that. They can give bhakti to anybody. So with this type of sukriti comes, then you're set. Then you're set on your path. And you can see how some people become devotees. They just, seems like they just start But this is not a start. It's a continuation. You can tell. They go way too fast. They learn everything so quickly, and they become so effulgent and skilled, and everything happens all of a sudden. So you can trust that this is a continuation. So when you're done, where are you gonna go? There's no room for you here. You're done. It's not like prison, that someone has been in prison for 20 years, 25 years, and they go out, they join the rest of society, and they don't know how to behave because all they know is what they learn in prison. So they commit a crime on purpose so they can go back to their routine and the 3 meals a day. Once you learn about the material world, you can actually rest assured that you won't have any more business to do here. You won't want to come back. And why would Krishna keep you here? He has no business for you here. He wants you back. He wants you back more than you want to go back. So he will take you as soon as you make the transition. There is so much to learn here, but there is a point that there is no more to learn. You have done your time. Get out. We don't want to see you here again. Maya will kick you out. Maya is a pure devotee. Maya would say, just get the hell out. I don't want to see you again. Go back to Godhead. Don't bother me anymore. I've had enough of you. So what are you going to say? No, I want to stay. Feels so good. Mexican food, Super Bowl, Christmas trees. I'm going to miss all that. No, you're not going to miss that. You're going to be with Krishna and his friends.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. All right. Are there any last questions or thoughts or comments? Anyone? Yes, Girdhar, Prabhu.
Prabhu, your friend that you left him at in the forest, so he joined you?
No, actually, he never went back to the jungle. But because we had exchanged addresses, I gave him my parents' address. He wrote me a letter years later saying that he got caught back into the wheel of samsara, that he was, working at a place that he didn't like, being with people he didn't want to be, and, he was just hankering to be free again. But I told him, I sent him a letter back and said, no, you have to just practice Krishna consciousness. Otherwise you can't get out of the wheel. And I never heard from him again. Or from Rukmini. I never saw her again. I asked devotees in Brazil. They never saw her again. They're just angels that come and touch people, and they've done the job. So hopefully it will have an impact. I mean, that's the beginning of spiritual life for some people. They come in contact with a devotee or with someone trying to be a devotee, and they have a change of heart. It may take a while. You never know how it's going to work. I had a friend, Prabhupada disciple, who passed away. I think it was him. He was driving, and he just drove over, before he got to a light, drove over something. So he stopped and opened the door, and there was a Bhagavad Gita, just took it inside, read it, and went to the temple, became a devotee. Just drove over a Bhagavad Gita. Can you imagine someone becoming a devotee from that? There was one guy that was a mountaineer expert. He was going to the Andes, so he flew from Miami to Ecuador, and the devotee sold him a book. He had no interest, but he sold him a book, so he put it in his backpack. And then he went to Ecuador, and he went to the Andes, and he just going up the hill, and he found this guy. He was living out of roots and shrubs and leaves and fruits up in the Andes like a yogi. by himself. He just had no interest in the world anymore. He was trying to be detached and all that. And they became friends. I mean, this guy lived in the mountains. He hasn't seen people for a while, and he wanted to leave him something, a gift. So he gave him the book that the devotee gave him in Miami at the airport. And what happened? This guy up in the mountain read the book and came down to town, found the temple, and became a devotee. So all these things happen. It's not serendipitous in the sense of, happenstance. It just happened. Coincidence. There's no coincidence. Krishna's directing everything. You look at an orchestra and there's 40 people playing trumpets and violin and harp, and it seems like everybody's doing their part, but it's the conductor that is telling everybody what to do and how to modify it, how to make it sound better. And he hears, okay, you're off, you have to change this, you have to go faster, etc., etc. So we may not see the conductor, we only see the sounds and hear the sounds and see the lights and so on. We may not see the conductor, but the conductor is there. Krishna is directing everything, the ambulation of all living entities, and is trying for everybody to go back to him. So I don't know what would happen to any of the people that we meet, but you know what the instruction is. Yaredeka tarekaho Krishna upadesh. Wherever you go, whomever you meet, tell them about Krishna. What happened to them is between them and Krishna. But it is your duty to tell them. Because if you miss a chance, when is the next time the devotee will approach them? So don't alienate people, don't annoy people, but tell them about Krishna one way or another. Make sure that they get an early start in spiritual life.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Sarvatma Prabhu. So at this time, I would request the devotees, if they're able to, then they can please unmute themselves, and we can thank Sarvatma Prabhu by chanting Hari Bol 3 times.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Hari Bol,
I
Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
want to thank all of you for this opportunity.
Wonderful
Okay.
class, Prabhu. I could not want it to end.
What's that?
Wonderful class, Prabhu. We did not want it to end. We thought this should just continue, and we would love to listen.
You see, as long as we have this facility, Zoom, I'm available whenever you need me. And if I've made any sense, thank you. Just please use me again. I'll be happy to do some service that way. And please forgive me if I offended any of you, or if I said something that affected your sensibilities. But I'm speaking from my heart, so that's all I can do.
Thank you so much, and we certainly will reach out to you. We absolutely must. It's a necessity for us.
Anytime. All the best. Best of luck in your spiritual pursuits, all of you. And I hope to see you again soon. Hare Krishna.
Merry Christmas. Happy
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
All glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Of course, Prabhupada. A couple of very quick announcements. So tomorrow is Gita Jayanti. So tomorrow we will have Gopal Hari Prabhu is actually giving a lecture in New Vrindavan. So I'll send out the Zoom invite for that. And also we have the big Gita marathon celebration that's happening from GBC. Several Maharajas are speaking to that. Bhavkri Govinda Prabhu had sent out the flyer. So I'll resend that flyer out in an email. So that will be the extent of our celebration. We will also again meet either 31st evening or first evening. So we're still finalizing out exactly how we have to do that. So just give me like a couple of days to finalize that discussion with Bhavgiri Govinda Prabhu, with Vijay Govinda Prabhu, a couple of other folks as well. And then we'll just send out a note for that. And that will again be an interactive thing. So we'll have a sign-up sheet with asking different people to do, or requesting different people to see if they want to do different things or want to share other things and so on. We'll keep a short time limit for that. So every person given like at the most 5 minutes or something, so they can do a kirtan or recitation or share a realization or talk about how they came to Krishna consciousness, things of that sort and all that. Hey, if you guys are not talking, can you go on mute? Hold on. Yeah, I think that's better. Okay. All right. So we'll reach out to everybody to have that sign up and so on. So the only question that we are still struggling with is the timing of it. There's one school of thought which says that, hey, let's bring in the new year. So night 10 p.m. to, midnight and all that. And then there are several of us who have, little kids, and we are, frankly speaking, I know I'm very old. I can't, for the life of me, stay up till midnight unless there's a really compelling reason to do that. Yeah. So it's iffy. So those are the kind of decisions that we are having to make. Okay, and then that's about it. So this will bring at least our more or less our Gita Jayanti celebrations to conclusion. So for one last time, please, if possible, unmute yourselves, and we'll end by offering Vaishnava pranams to each other. Okay.
Panchakalpatarubhasya
Kripa
Vaishnavebhyo namo namah Anantakoti Vaishnavavritasya
Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you. Dandavat pranam.
Hare
Krishna.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Hari Bol.